Today, I want to talk about Roth IRAs, specifically some common mistakes that a lot of people make. So stay tuned if you want to find out if you're shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to your retirement, or if you're on the right track so you can tell your spouse, I told you so. As a 31-year-old, I can confidently say that a lot of my friends and people I know should probably put some more time into thinking about their future, especially when it comes to their retirement. It goes without saying that I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just some dude on the internet who spends too much time being fascinated with money, and this is just my take on retirement and how I view things. Anyways, the fate of Social Security has been a cause for concern for pretty much my whole life, and if I end up getting anything, I'll view that as just bonus money, but I'm sure as hell not gonna rely on it. So what are your options for taking control? Well, obviously there are Roth IRAs, but there are also company-sponsored 401ks and many other vehicles to help you get safely to retirement. Let's focus on Roth IRAs though. If you don't know what a Roth IRA is, I'll give you a simple way to understand. IRA stands for Individual Retirement Account. The Roth means that money that goes into the account is after tax and will grow tax-free in the account. Think of it like this. If you receive a paycheck from your employer, they've most likely already taken money out for your taxes. That's all after-tax money means. Growing tax-free means that once you reach retirement age of 59 and a half, any money you pull out of that account will not be taxed. It's all yours. It's also important to remember that the account doesn't just grow on its own. Once you put money into the account, you then need to put that money into investments. Just stashing money in a Roth IRA without investing it does literally nothing more than a normal savings account. So, what's mistake number one? This may sound dumb to you, but it's as simple as not contributing enough or not contributing at all. The earlier you start investing for your retirement, the greater the payoff, since one of the guiding principles of compound interest is time. If someone who was 20 maxes out a Roth IRA until they're 65, they have $3 million. The one who started at 40 has $570,000. Here's the kicker though. You might think that the 20-year-old has more money because they've put more money in. And it's true, they've put 2 times roughly the amount in as the 40-year-old. But the amount that it's grown far exceeds 2 times. It's actually more like 5x, and that's because of the extra time. Check this out. If the 20-year-old maxes out a Roth IRA for 25 years, he ends up with the same amount of money as the 45-year-old had at 65 years old, which is that $570,000 number. If the 20-year-old then stops contributing at that point and just leaves the money invested until he's 65, he still ends up with $2.8 million. The next big mistake is not knowing the rules of a Roth IRA. The 2 major ones are not making enough money or making too much money to use one. To contribute to a Roth IRA, you must have an income. You can read up on the specifics, but if you have a job that pays you wages and you report it on your taxes, you pretty much qualify. People who work under the table don't. If your income is from rental property, that doesn't count either, or if your income comes from investments, that also doesn't qualify. On the flip side is making too much money, which I didn't know I would say was a thing, but in this case, it is a thing to make too much money. In order to max out a Roth IRA, you have to make less than $129,000 filing single or less than $204,000 filing jointly. Once those incomes are reached, you can still contribute, but the amount you can put in moves down on a sliding scale until you're making more than $144K filing single or $214K filing jointly. Once you're over those income levels, you can no longer contribute to a Roth IRA. The penalty for overfunding a Roth IRA is 6% of the excess amount, meaning 6% of any amount more than you were allowed to contribute. The next mistake I see people make, don't get me wrong, this can work, but it's definitely riskier, is using speculative investments in your long-term retirement accounts. I know a few people personally do this, and some people have even hit one penny stock and ended up with millions in their Roth IRA, which is tax-free money in retirement. But to me, this is the trap. If you end up not hitting one of those risky stocks, you end up without a retirement because you have no money. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any risky investments. I just personally keep my risky stuff small and outside of my retirement accounts. To me, my retirement account is my safe play for getting to retirement, so that if anything else goes wrong in my financial plan, I have a bunch of money to enjoy with my wife, and we don't have to work unless we want to in retirement. Remember that anyone can win the lottery, but I'm not the type of person to bet on winning the lottery as a retirement plan, and I suggest you don't make the same mistake either. The fourth mistake on the list is for my married people out there with a stay-at-home spouse. Remember how earlier I talked about having to have an income in order to have a Roth IRA? There's a lot of haves in that sentence. There's actually an exception for this exact scenario, and you can open a spousal Roth IRA in their name and contribute to 2 IRAs with 1 income, one in your name and one in your spouse's, effectively doubling the contribution limit for your family. The only requirement for a spousal Roth IRA are to be legally married and to file your taxes jointly. If you have the income to be able to do this, it's a no-brainer. You should be contributing to 2. If you have a brain, you should also check out our app and website. Links are down in the description. The last mistake is obvious to me, but many people get into a tight spot with money and withdraw early from retirement accounts. Don't withdraw money early because you need it. Any money I personally put in retirement gets treated like it doesn't exist anymore, and I will only take money out for one reason other than being in retirement. That reason would to be avoid a bankruptcy, which is unlikely to happen since the only payment me and my wife have is our mortgage. My employer has excellent health insurance that we pay no premiums on at all, and we're in the middle of the underwriting process for large payout life insurance policies on both of us in case one of us dies. None of this is by accident either, except for maybe the good employer benefits. That was kind of lucky. Having minimal debt, life insurance, and a few months of expenses set aside are all things people should have. If you're living on the edge and reach a point where you have to pull money out of your retirement accounts to make payments to buy food, you should have stopped contributing to them a long time ago and gotten on even footing monetarily and then resumed with contributions. Being financially healthy has an order of operations, and it takes some discipline and practice. Pulling money out of retirement accounts should be a last resort, and sometimes it makes sense to do so. But don't let your credit card run up with stuff you really don't need and then hurt your chances at retiring wealthy by covering the bill with money from your Roth IRA. Oh, and if you're looking for a place to start what to invest in, you should check out this video right here.